We as a group are curious about the societal effects of COVID-19 and how queer international relations can help describe, investigate, and explain the issue. COVID-19 is a respiratory infection that originated from Wuhan, China in 2019. Currently, the virus has spread across the world, and slowly the number of cases have been doubling due to easy transmission. This relates to queer IR because the Asian population have been targeted and discriminated against because individuals are misinformed about the virus. We should discuss these instances of discrimination as they are similar to experiences queer individuals in international relations. We are better able to understand how these individuals are treated by looking at the ways queer populations were treated in the past. Pandemics are international relations because infectious disease are new threats to security and international peace. The spread of viruses in developed countries have been facilitated by the process of globalization determined by the immersion of global collective interest in the protection of health.
In this section, I will look at how COVID-19 causes discrimination at an individual level by creating figurations of the other and how this notion extends to queer theory in international relations. Othering is a sociology term that can be described as portraying a specific group of individuals as different and translating this difference into inferiority. With regards to COVID-19, the outbreak began in China, and for this reason, Chinese people around the world are being stigmatized. A sociology professor at York University who studied the 2003 SARS outbreak has said that most of the racist incidents which occurred at the time were individualized. This reflects what we are currently seeing with this pandemic, where the Chinese community is seen as the other, as they are being socially isolated from the majority. When we look to queer theory, we can see how this notion is mirrored. Scholar Cynthia Weber argues that the state exercises its powers in favor of the good LGBT and combat the perverse. The perverse homosexual is anyone that does not fit the typical white Western male image and is seen as a threat to the sovereign man, and for this reason, they are shunned from society and treated as inferior. In each case here, we have identified the other. Here it is the Chinese community and the bad homosexual. Each of these do not have desirable traits that the majority is looking for, and for this reason they are stigmatized and shunned in both an individual and international level.
However, the bigotry that has arisen as a result of this crisis is not limited to the individual level. The pandemic policies of world leaders have varied significantly, but the COVID-19 policy of the United States in particular is an excellent example of how queer IR can reveal the dynamics behind the societal response to this pandemic. The words that form policy have power. Timur Roskola's Raping Like a State tells us that colonial legal rhetoric gendered states male and describes state-on-state violence as sexual violence. It is only fitting that Roskola's example of China is the state that the Trump administration's words also attack in their coronavirus policy. Prominent and typically conservative U.S. government officials, ranging from Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to everyday representatives to President Donald Trump himself, have referred to the coronavirus as, respectively, the Wuhan virus, the Chinese virus, and the foreign virus. This rhetoric creates an atmosphere around the disease that takes the blame off of the United States' shoulders and codes it as a sort of infiltrator, spy, or even weapon coming from China. Our queer curiosity reveals that the political rhetoric of COVID-19 policy places it inside a greater narrative of gendered and sexualized state-on-state violent relations. But even more importantly, this rhetoric is then compounded by said policy's effect on international borders.
Following the coronavirus outbreak, some of the states have decided to close their borders, including the US and China. Through the queer theory in international relations, borders have different kinds of explanation. Borders have a persistent role as pillars of national identity, sites of exclusion and expulsion, and as mechanisms to create spaces of exception. According to Hannah Arendt's observation, border is a key mechanism for stratifying human mobility and so clarifies and articulates the rights and claims of those who are already inside the territory. I am an international student from China, and with the coronavirus outbreak, I underwent exclusionism. I got assaulted when walking on downtown streets. Trump recently tweeted that the coronavirus is a war to an invisible enemy. Then, he pointed out many times that it is a Chinese virus. This undoubtedly increases people's thoughts of xenophobia. The border between Chinese and the rest of the world is clear. In the recent law, as an international student, once I leave the country, I am not allowed to come back until the corona issue has been solved. Moreover, in my home country, I also suffered from public opinion pressure regarding me as the exception. There are borders, but not only from where I study, but also from where I come from.